recording. All right, so again, welcome to the session. We're just going to go straight into it, teaching in the online environment. Now, everyone who has participated in some of the sessions I've done in the past, you know, I like to start with a little icebreaker, right? So I'm just going to put some links in the chat. All right, and each link will take you to a particular question. All right, it's a quick poll I'm doing. It, of course, it's anonymous. You don't have to identify yourself, but it's just part of the activity. All right, and in this activity, you'll see that you're not so much, you're not as alone as you probably thought you would. All right, so so those are some links I have there. I just posted in the chat, and we're gonna go straight into it. All right. So let me know. I'll post it again. I think Josanne just joined the session. I'm not sure if she will be able to see the links. Josanne, you could let me know if you are getting the links.
The link, I don't know.
Not a problem. I'll post it over.
Yes.
Just give me 1 sec. So I'll post it for you. Here it is. You will see questions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each question has a link to it, and it should take you to the sorry, the actual question or poll. All right. Let me know if you get through, and we'll proceed from there. So far, everyone has we have 100% in this particular poll. Has your technology use changed between pre-COVID and now, or prior to COVID and now with this pandemic? I think the pandemic has. I think the pandemic has brought on a bit of a
Okay, so I'll go on it. Yeah.
All right. So yes, the COVID has brought on a sort of paradigm shift, if you will. All right. So let's move on next. What technology tools have you used in your teaching practice prior to COVID? Someone said just my learning. Someone said video links via YouTube. Okay, fair enough. My learning, PowerPoint, Google Hangouts. Google Hangouts I particularly like. Skype, Twitter. Okay, good. Keep it coming, guys. My learning, videos, PowerPoint, nice. Video links, good. Zoom and Kahoot, nice. So good, and one of the things that I mentioned, I don't really go into it, but I make mention of it. Kahoot is a good tool, a gaming tool that will help engage your students, and they can participate in this game collaboratively via their mobile devices as well. Zoom, yes, good. Any more? Okay, so let's go next. Were you comfortable using those tools in your educational context? The majority of persons, well, 100% said yes. Good. And by the way, this is a platform called Poll Everywhere. It's a simple polling platform that allows you to do just what I'm doing. So it's a nice way to use. It's a good tool for, let's say, a pre-assessment. A pre-assessment meaning that it's a tool that helps you to gauge what students are actually coming into your session with, to test their prior knowledge of a particular topic before you go into it. It may also be used as a post-assessment tool where you may have gone through certain things and you just want to ask some some revision questions and see, so you could gauge the level at which students remember what they need to remember or have that learning has taken place. Yeah? So what are some hindrances or issues you face in using the technology in your educational context? Lack of training, using it ad hoc as I go along. Oh, well, that's what we're here for, right? To provide the training. All right, nice. So hopefully you don't feel that way anymore. No, because students were in the classroom. Not too sure. Tracking student usage and their feedback. Okay, good. So this would be a nice tool for you to give you some sort of feedback in terms of, depending on how you use it, of course. It would give you some feedback in terms, immediate feedback in terms of what their feedback is like. And of course, tracking student usage. I'm assuming you're meaning my e-learning. Whoever posted that. And if so, that maybe I could show you that. That might be a bonus thing after we cover what we're supposed to cover. Lack of training. I'm not sure, but I'm getting the impression that some of you may not have been notified or gotten the notification of our training. We've done a lot of training over the past couple of months, virtually, of course, and we've made the recordings available to the campus community. So if you realize you're not hearing anything, just feel free to send us an email, and we can easily keep you up to date. All right. We also, I think an email was sent out last week with the training schedule, so that went out to academic all as well. All right. All right. Someone said, I'm not a fan of the impersonal nature of it. I like to see faces. All right. Well, that is something that is very common. You're not alone in that sentiment, in the sense that many lecturers or faculty have that particular preference, which I understand because you're used to the face-to-face environment. But when you're in the online environment, you have some adjustments that you have to make. Obviously, teaching online is not necessarily the same as teaching face-to-face. But hopefully, some of the things that you are exposed to today will help you minimize that impersonal part of it and maximize that authentic personal aspect. Yeah. So just keep that in mind. How do you feel about remote or online teaching? Somebody said mix. Some pros, such as accessibility, and cons, lack of I think somebody said, let me just scroll down to see, lack of engagement with students. So this workshop is for you. All right. Just one sec. Okay, good. Right, so that's one. Someone said, okay, actually I prefer it in some ways. Okay, fair enough. Mixed feelings. Love-hate relationship. Okay. Okay, right. I'm assuming that's the same person. Seems somewhat impersonal. It is more work. Students work less, and some of them did not take it seriously. So I'm assuming well, this webinar might be for you as well. All right. To really engage students so that they take it more seriously. And there's a scale I show, a continuum or a scale if you want to call it, whichever one, to show the different levels of engagement. I think would be really useful to you. Someone said I like it. Okay, great. So I think it's safe to say that we have a good mix of persons here. Some persons who like it, some persons who don't like it. And some persons with mixed feelings, some persons with different levels of expertise or experience, and that's perfectly fine. That is perfectly fine. I think the work we have cut out for us today would really be to, I think once you're familiar with some of the things that we're going to show you today, it's going to equip you to engage your students, and I mean high-level engagement in the online environment. And it's also going to help you, it's going to enhance the entire process, both for you and your students. For those of you who are desirous of a more personal or interactive sessions, this will be of use to you. For those of you thinking of ways in which you can engage your students, this will also be for you. For those of you who may be not so familiar with Blackboard or how you could really engage students in Blackboard and in other platforms, this is also for you. All right, some of it will be, and most of it will be in the PowerPoint. Some of it I will explain as we go along, and that's perfectly fine. All right. Added to this, you will also get a copy of the recording and some additional resources, some tip sheets and so on, following this session. Is that okay?
Yes, it is. Okay,
great. So let me just orient you very quickly to some of the buttons you would see at the bottom of the slide. Thank you, Daniela. Thank you, Josanne. Thank you, Beverly. No problem at all. All right. So some icons you would see at the bottom of the slide. The first one is a raise hand icon, and that raise hand is usually, if you hover over it, you'll see raise hand. If you click on it, it prompts you to, it gives a notification that your hand is raised. So you know, in a face-to-face classroom, usually when students have a contribution to make or a question to pose, they normally would raise their hand. They wouldn't just say it like that, right? So that's a way of but before I say that, so this icon is a way to enable that in the virtual environment. All right. Now I want to invite some of you to click on it. So you could click on it. Right. So Pooja, you raise your hand. A couple others. Right. Good. Sarah, you raised your hand. Dave, you raised your hand. Beverly, you raised your hand. Good. Lorraine, you raised your hand. Julie, you raised your hand. Sharice, good. Josanne, nice. Nice. So we have, so good. So this is a way, especially for those of you who may have large classes, right? Daniela, I see you. Now, normally when you raise your hand, I would normally, and the way it goes, even for this session, if you have a question, feel free to practice it, right? You could click on that icon. I would get a notification. I think you would also get a notification on your end saying that your hand is raised. It's similar to Zoom. Some of you might be familiar with Zoom, right? So, yes, so once you click on that, I get a notification, not just a pop-up thing, but I also get, well, you would have heard the sound effect. And then I could invite you to make your comment or question. All right. Now, this is particularly useful when you have a large class, let's say of 10 or more students, or even 10 students, you still need it because you don't want students to be talking over each other. And then in the recording, it's all jumbled up and persons, you're not really getting, you miss what students are asking or saying. All right. So it's a very useful tool when you're inviting students to speak, you ask them to use the raise hand feature. All right. And that way, especially if you're recording the session, it ensures that everyone hears the question and the recording picks up the question. So when students are looking at the recording for review purposes, they have an idea of what question is being answered and some of the points that are being raised. All right. Next to that, you're going to see your camera icon. And your camera icon normally is, you would see a strike through over it, yeah? So that really signals that your camera is off, right? Which is okay for this session. And I would even venture to say that when you are doing your virtual sessions, I know it seems impersonal, but I would recommend that you do not encourage your students to use their cameras, especially if they're not presenting or any sort of demonstrating anything. If it's a normal session, I wouldn't recommend that you require them to use their cameras. Why? Because they may not, on their end that is, may not have the necessary bandwidth to support it. And then even on your end, it may be a little bit taxing on your network to be managing some of these cameras and well, not manage cameras, but for your bandwidth to cater to all of that. All right. So I recommend that your camera may or may not be on. And maybe if you have a student who needs to demonstrate something or present something, maybe that student's camera can be on. But I wouldn't recommend that the whole class, every student has their camera on. All right. I'd also like to recommend that for the best and this is to avoid it from being glitchy, by the way, yeah, in terms of the strain and bandwidth capacity and so on, the strain on the network and so on. Added to that, I would recommend that when you are doing your live sessions, that you do them from connected user Ethernet, connect directly to the router, as opposed to a Wi-Fi connection, a wireless connection. Why? Because it usually lends for a stronger connection to the network. All right. So if you have your laptop, for example, you might want to plug it in directly to the router, as opposed to relying on the Wi-Fi on any wireless network. All right. And I think that goes without saying, right? It's you get a stronger connection when you're connected to the source, as opposed to a weaker connection via Wi-Fi. On the left side of that camera icon, you're going to see a microphone, and the microphone is really if you want to speak. I think we've been doing that thus far. You just click on it when you need to speak, but you must remember to take it off when you're not speaking. Why? Because, and these are things that you would want to share with your students too. Why? Because it minimizes distractions. Likewise for the camera feature as well. It minimizes distractions, and then you're gonna get, it's gonna minimize feedback. Yeah, the feedback is just that kind of echoey, staticky sound that could be piercing to the ear when multiple microphones are on. And then to the left of that, this is I like this feature. If you hover over that, you would see that icon that is sort of like a watermark of a person. It's a white thing with a watermark of a person inside it. It usually has a green tick. When you click on this, you would see a very small window pop up or menu appear, and it would let you know of your internet connection. All right, you would see just that little bar on the right side of your name. And then you would see feedback. Now, this is to someone who mentioned feedback is used earlier. You can get feedback via several avenues. You can get feedback via poll everywhere, which is what I just showed you. You can get feedback via a poll in BBC, which is what I might show you later on. And then you can get quick feedback from students via this avenue. So let's say if I were to ask you, what do you feel about lunch today? What do you feel about lunch today? So what I want you to do is just click on whatever icon there. Okay, so Charisse feels happy about lunch. Gerard feels happy about lunch. Julie, likewise. Margaret, Sarah, done. Good. Marielle and Stefan seem to be confused. I guess you're still waiting on lunch, or you haven't had lunch yet, right?
Correct.
I know they struggle. All right. So, and if you go, guys, let me just invite you very quickly to, on the right side, the lower right side, you will see a little purple button with a white arrowhead in it on the lower right side of your page, right? Well, most of us have been using the chat, so it's right where you go to access the chat. Next to the chat, you're going to see attendees. And for some of you who attended the Blackboard workshop last week, this should be familiar to you as well, right? So this is where you can see all the attendees or participants or persons in your particular session. Now, here's what I'm going to ask you to do now. So go back to that status icon where I asked you how you felt about lunch. Let me ask you now, what do you feel about breakfast this morning? Gerard is sad. Julie is shocked or surprised. Gopi-chan is happy. I guess you had a good breakfast. Pooja is saying faster. I guess he had a rushed lunch. Yeah. Marielle and Stefan are confused. So I'm saying this, guys. No, you would see that all the statuses, you would see them appear in the participants list. So you know who's confused, you know who's happy, like Sharice was happy just now, right? So you get to see who is happy, who's sad, who's confused. So let's say it might even be something more serious, as in, how do you feel about this particular equation? How do you feel about this particular research? What do you feel about this particular phenomenon? And this is where you can engage students in a more efficient way, without you even having to type a question or copy and paste a question and so on. All right, any questions on that? No? Okay, great. So I think that's a useful tool. Okay, I see in the case of multiple hands raised, does BBC indicate the order in which? Yes, it actually goes like a list. And every time one appears, it goes to the top. All right, to answer your question, Gerard. Okay, great. Right, and you see it on your end too, from the teacher's perspective. Now, as we go on, I'll explain the different types of privileges you have in BBC. Well, I could explain it now very quickly. You have the moderator, who would be the teacher. So in your sessions, you will be the teacher, aka the moderator. But then there are some times you might want to make a student a presenter. Let's say students have you require students to do presentations in your Blackboard sessions. You will have to make them a presenter, not a moderator, but a presenter. You don't want to make too many students moderators in your class, because they could easily hijack your session. All right, and delete your PowerPoint and all these different things, and you don't want that chaos, right? So another part of managing your classroom is to ensure that you are the only moderator, or maybe have one other moderator if so much, and your students are either participants who would just be able to chat and use their feedback stuff and so on, but they wouldn't be able to control the PowerPoint or any other presentation that's being used. However, the presenters, if the students you require students to do presentations, then you will have to enable them or elevate them to presenters in your session. And I'll show you how to do that in just a bit. All right? And that way they can upload their PowerPoints, or they can navigate through different media. All right, so that was just a brief little orientation to some very basic features in Blackboard that you can use for engaging students in your context. The quick feedback or status feature, needless to say, the chat and the attendees list and so on. All right, so we kind of went and already started accomplished some of these objectives, or started in the accomplishment of these objectives. We're going to look at remote teaching and learning, the context that is. We're going to look at some instructional strategies that you can use in your teaching context. And then we're going to look at some, you're going to be able to create activities for student engagement. All right, and I'll show you that in just a bit. And of course, generally just use technology for student engagement. All right, so let's go straight ahead, guys. So the first thing, before you even get to the technology tools and all these different things, the first thing you want to do is understand your context. And your context really, in our context in particular, it's a context of remote teaching and learning. All right, that's the first thing. The context is a very layered thing. So we are in a remote teaching context, and so that means that we are trying to connect with our students virtually. Yeah, so there's a little bit of a distance there. I think someone mentioned the impersonal or distance distance between you and your students. So this is kind of it here. So but the thing is, remote teaching doesn't have to be distant or impersonal. It's distant in the sense of the physical distance, but in terms of that personal level, it can be much more interactive or engaging if some of these strategies I'm going to show you, if they're used. All right, so for the most part, remote teaching is delivered through video conferencing software, such as Blackboard, and an LMS or learning management system, such as My eLearning, which we've already mentioned. And it can be done synchronously and or asynchronously, or both. Yeah. You might use a mixture of the two, in other words. Some elements might be live and some elements might be pre-recorded. And in our context, in this particular campus, it's a temporary adjustment. All right, this entire pandemic, as I mentioned earlier, has caused us to become innovative and to really adjust. It's a paradigm shift. All right, but in this case, it's a temporary adjustment. Yeah. So some of the things that you can use in terms of your remote delivery, you know, and yes, my learning and, you know, the software, we have all of that. So I mentioned that there. But there are different activities you can create. There are different assessments. We know that we're using alternative assessments now, or authentic assessments, among other things. All right. Now you must be mindful. I'm just covering the basics. That even though you're adjusting, there still must be some sort of structure. So if you're going to use a new activity or some sort of assessment, using a new device or a new strategy or whatnot, it must align with, you must have alignment. And when I say alignment, it must help you meet your learning goals or objectives, right? Your learning outcomes, some people might say. So your learning outcomes basically determine the kinds of activities you use, and we'll look at those in just a bit. And then even some of the assessments you might create. Yeah? Everything is guided by your learning objectives or outcomes. All right? So there must be structure or coherence in all of it. Right? Everything in teaching and learning is planned or designed or structured or systematic. Yeah? Even if it seems arbitrary, for lack of a better word, it has some sort of guide. And the main thing in teaching and learning, you want to pay attention to your objectives, because that guides everything that you do. So at this point, I want to invite you to just take a minute and think. Just stop and think of what you've done so far. Some of you may have taught courses last semester or last year around this time. And I want you to think that it's not so much you're going to create something totally new. What I'm really asking you to do is, again, adjusting. How can you improve on what you've done or what you're doing? All right, and this is what it's all about. So, and once we kind of take some time to think, you think about what you've done, then you think about your learning outcomes, and you think about the kinds of learners that you have. All right. Now, if I ask you very quickly, no, that takes us sorry, let me just back up a little bit. That takes us to what we call our learner analysis. Now, a learner analysis is basically an identification of the target group. Who are you teaching, right? What kinds of students do you have in your class? And now, if I were to ask you that, I had another survey for it, but I don't think I might need it so much. In the chat, or you could use the mics as well. How would you describe your students? Think of their age. What age range do you usually have, the prevalent bunch? All right. Are there more men than women, or vice versa? What are some of what prior knowledge or expertise do they have? Are they working students? So you tell me. I want to hear from you now. Group 2, I don't know what you mean, Gerard. Oh, adults, okay. Charisse, you have young, inexperienced, more males. Okay, good. So that's a quick thing there. So Julie, you have 18, very, very specific. I like that. 18 to 22 age range, primarily from Trinidad and Tobago. Mixed groups. So you have almost a balance between male and female. Okay, good. Anybody else? You could use your microphones as well. That's okay. I'm just waiting to hear from you.
Okay, so I have primarily working adults,
Mm-hmm.
almost a fair split male-female with a slight dominance of the female, and
Okay.
that's about it. Career, already in a career, etc.
Right. So you have mostly working students. Yeah. Right, Margaret, you have 18 to 25 years old, and a fair balance. Okay, good, good. Anybody else? Right, UB professionals, mainly females. Okay, good, 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 good. Nice. Anybody else? I think someone posted earlier. Let me just scroll up a bit. Jolie elaborated. They tend to be fairly inexperienced with research, but high achieving. Okay, good. Marielle, go ahead.
Yeah, so here's my conundrum. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have this class last semester. Generally, at the start of a class, I would kind of poll, which I wasn't familiar with it too well to do that, to
Mm-hmm.
gauge who are working, who on this, who, what degree they did before. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess I have to create a poll now to get that sense, visually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Very
so,
good. You're very much on track.
okay.
You're very much on track. So one of the things is you create a quick pool, and to do that, it's fairly easier. I mean, I can give you a quick thing now, a quick tool. Let me just create one for you. You can create a poll, sorry, in Blackboard, or you can do it in a more interactive way.
Okay.
Via Poll Everywhere, as I just showed you, or you can even use this platform, and I'm going to show you right now. I'm going to send you a link for it, called Answer Garden. All right. Now, Answer Garden is a sort of word cloud generating poll. So the way it works is that you create a question. All right. You create a question, and let me demonstrate it for you. All right, if you don't mind. Is that okay? I'm digressing a
Yes,
bit, but
thank you.
I'm going to show you very quickly. All right, so Answer Garden. So you could probably click on that link, but make sure you could see my screen. All right, so I'm going to share it now. So you should be seeing my screen.
Yes.
Right, so you would see a page that looks like this, and the link I just sent for you.
Yeah, I saw
All
that.
you have to do is click on Create Answer Garden, and you could put your topic here. So if I were to pose, how do you let me put something like describe your mood. I just put status, right? Let's say you wanted to know if students are aware of a particular thing or what kinds of students are coming into the class. You might even say, ask a question as simple as how do you feel, right? That kind of thing. So you have some options all the way here. You have, make it optional. If it's a classroom brainstorm moderating kind of thing, and you can even determine the length, answer length. All right. Usually I aim for short, quick, not very long phrases and so on. So, and then you can manage it via a password. If you want it to remain secure, or if it's just a one-time thing, you may not necessarily need a password. All right. And then you could send your email, so the password will be sent to your email. If you want to give it a password and save it for future reference, you can do that as well. All right. So once you do that, you can scroll all the way down and click Create. And I can share this. I'm not sure if I was supposed to copy the link before, I forgot. But I'll share this link with you. All right, I'll post it in the chat. And let me know if you can access it. All right. You simply just type your answer. Let's say Not bad. And you can submit. And the answer appears, so wherever you clicked, the answer should appear in the answer garden. So go ahead and you could either post the link to your answer garden, or you could click on mine and post your responses.
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay, let me just go back to my answer garden. Okay, good. So let me refresh. So here we see in a learning mode, not bad. I think I posted not bad. Somebody said married. Okay, and happily married. Good for you. All right, and the more you post, the more certain words appear. They're gonna appear bigger. All right, so if I were to say good, now I could change the layout of this in terms of the color, the layout, and all these different things to make it look more attractive. All right, but I'm just showing you the basic use of it. And this is a good way to kind of gauge very quickly how students feel about a particular topic, what prior knowledge are they coming with into your session, that sort of thing. And to see the responses, let's say I'm not typing anything here, so all I have to do is refresh my page. All right, if I refresh my page, it's going to show more things right there. And I can expand it. I can, go full screen. I can export it, meaning that I can export it as a file and then even upload it into my learning, or I can share the link and so on. All right. Any questions on that?
So at the very basic level, and for me, I'm going very basic level. I click I upload the link in the chat there. Create the question, and put and let them submit, because I would want to see it in real time.
Yes, right. So this will be good for you as well. All right. So you create your answer garden. All right, and then you send the link. Send them the link, and then once you send the link, it creates. They can easily respond to it one time. Yeah?
That is like what you did in the second link. You created the link.
Right.
And sent it. That's the one with 1711. That's what you did.
Yes, that's exactly what I did. Just what I just said is what I did earlier.
Okay.
And I was showing you earlier how to create the answer garden earlier. I don't know if you saw that, right?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Right. And that's how you do it. Any other questions on it, guys? Now, like I said, this could the layout and so on, and the color and the text and all of that could be customized accordingly. If I were to go back, I could go back, but it will show you. You could change the background, you could change the color and size of the text and all these things. But with regard to the size of the text, the prevalent responses usually appear bigger than some of the others. Yes, it's a free resource. Yeah, most things I show you are usually free, at least up to a certain level. All right. So good. So yes. Unless it's something like in Poll Everywhere, which is what I showed you earlier. Now I forgot to say that a lot of the things that in this session I will try to demonstrate while, instead of telling you about it and walking you through, I'll demonstrate it so you know what it feels like as the student, but then you'll also be creating it at the same time. All right, so a lot of the things we're going to do here will be taught via demonstration. So with Poll Everywhere and likewise Answer Garden, yes, you'll need to create a link for the Answer Garden, but for the Poll Everywhere, you don't need a link for every, I don't think you need a link for every poll. All right, unless you create it, unless you create them at different times. So let's say if I created one question or two questions last night, and I create another two questions tonight, then I might have two separate links. Yeah, that's for poll everywhere. All right, and to get poll everywhere, it's just polleverywhere.com, and that's it. All right. Okay, so so far we looked at poll everywhere. We looked at Answer Garden. We looked at some of the features in Blackboard. So we haven't even gotten into the meat of it yet. All right. So the reason you want to consider your learners, the kinds of learners you have, is to make informed decisions about your instructions. All right. Now remember I said earlier that your objectives kind of influence everything you do, but in conjunction with your objectives would be your students, yeah, your learners. And this is what we call like a learner-centered approach. So a good learner analysis should really identify or define who you're teaching, yeah, or what are the kinds of persons you have in your class, the kinds of personalities even, the kinds of, some persons in the chat said they are driven, they're high achievers. In other contexts, they may be very nonchalant or find the course a burden or whatnot, right? So it varies, And you would notice even though you're teaching the same course from year to year, Marielle, for example, do you normally have the same prevalent? No, right? Yeah,
different.
exactly.
Oh, different.
And I think for me, that's one of the joys of teaching and learning. But yeah, so yeah, it prevents the job from getting stagnant or stale.
Boring.
All right, so yeah, boring. And I know Marielle, I know you don't like boring stuff, right? So so definitely. All right, so you want to know who your learners are, so you could be more strategic, more systematic. You want to not shoot in the dark, but you want to know, you want to target your instruction specific or tailor your instruction specifically to the target that you're trying to reach. All right, so it's not just that your target shouldn't really be to cover the course content. It should really be to target your learners, ensure that they learn what they need to learn. Yeah. So there are different ways that I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of different ways you could get a learner analysis. In addition to what I showed you earlier, you have you could get it from Banner or My Learning. My Learning also has a good bit of analytics that you could use there. And analytics is just a big word for data, right? So you could tell who's from what particular faculty. If you have the majority of your students from a particular department, who might be doing cross-faculty courses and so on, that's okay. That's also a way to get information on male to female ratio and a host of other things. And the introductory activity could be like what I showed you earlier with Poll Everywhere or Answer Garden and that sort of thing. All right. So yeah, so that's really why you want to use a learner analysis. And a learner analysis would include things like these. Attitudes toward the content and so on. So Charisse, if I were to ask you, what are some of the attitudes you find your students come in with?
They want to be given everything. And they want to do as much as possible.
Right, exactly. And I'm sure several of you could relate to that in terms of that kind of attitude that students come with. Let me see who else I can call. Margaret, what kind of prior knowledge do persons come with in your teaching context?
Well, I am in HUEC.
Mm-hmm.
And I teach some courses cross faculty, come and
Right.
come from across, and some of them come with no heroic knowledge at all. That's
Right.
heroic
There you go.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah. You know, but they want to do something different.
Right. So
Right?
good.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. So you see where this is going. If I were to ask Gopi Chan, what kind of group characteristics do your students tend to have? Gopi Chan? No, I'm not sure if Gopi Chan is hearing me or if he's typing. In the meantime, Sarah, how would you describe the group dynamics? In other words, the cohort. What kind, is it like a tight-knit cohort that you tend to have, or they tend to work in silos, or they tend to be, there's a lot of tension, they don't like group work? How would you describe your learners in terms of group characteristics?
I guess my students come from all courses, all faculties, so they don't generally arrive too close-knit at all. Some can be very enthusiastic, others can be very shy, I find, because they tend to be quite young, and they absolutely detest group work, always, forever.
Right. So once you know these things, you're able to navigate or target specific things. Yes, Stefan?
Yes. Am I being heard?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, not to single out Gopi Chan, but one of the things that just happened is one of the things that I have an issue with in terms of not knowing who's actually in front of the screen, taking in the content at a particular time. So sometimes you might ask a question and then you realize that person is actually not in front of the screen. So those little nuances from e-learning is just one of the things that I've also encountered. I don't know actually who's in front of the screen, taking in the learning at a particular time. And because things are now recorded, sometimes you just leave it there and they might come back and they might say, oh, you know what, I will look at the recording afterwards. And so that level of engagement, you don't necessarily get, you can't see the person there engaging, you can't see the person with their head on the desk or anything like that. You don't know. You know?
Right. And you're definitely right. It's a valid concern. Sometimes somebody might be, you might be talking away and somebody might be in the kitchen making a sandwich, right? So, you know what I mean? Sometimes that's the situation. But you see what I just did is an example of what you can implement in your class. So when you single out certain students, so you ask questions and get there, it's not only a way of getting them engaged or getting feedback from them, but it's also a way of you getting an idea of who's really attentive, who's really participating, who's really there and not just, present, right? So that's one of the things you want to do, not just you don't want to do all the talking, because if you do all the talking, first of all, their attention starts to wane, and then they go off to, to other rooms, and then have you just on a loudspeaker, or where it's online, they can easily go into some social media platform or YouTube or whatnot. You have more distractions in the online environment, which is a given. So really, what you want to do is be more strategic. All of this is part of the learner analysis. You know that, for example, based on what you guys identified earlier, most of your learners are millennials. And millennials love social media. We love technology. We love, all these different things. So you want to be very strategic. So asking questions, prodding, from your students certain responses is a way of you gauging if students are actively involved or if they're just present. Yeah? So hopefully that sort of helps. And another way to do that would be some of the activities that we'll show, we'll practice in just a bit. All right, but thank you so much for that, Stefan. So why do you want to consider your learner characteristics? Right, thanks so much. For these things, you want to make sure it influences the pace of your lesson. It influences the kinds of activities that you incorporate into your classroom. It lets you know the level of control or autonomy that you can give to the learner. Yeah. It might even let you know of something simple as the vocabulary, the jargon that you use. If they're not very knowledgeable of a particular phenomenon or topic, I don't think you're going to be using advanced jargon related to the topic, right? So that's why you want to be mindful of the kinds of persons you have in your course. And the ultimate reason for all of this is really to engage, to maximize engagement, right? So when you know who you're teaching or what kinds of learners you have, you know how to target that learner or learners to maximize engagement. And engagement really is really where they become actively involved in the process as opposed to just passive recipients of knowledge. Now, Skellefteå created a sort of continuum, which I just put in a table for you, regarding engagement, levels of engagement. Now, really, what you want to aim for is high level, engagement, which is high attention, high commitment. All right, where the student, basically what it means is that the student is motivated. They find that the lesson or the resulting product, let's say a project of some sort, is meaningful. It's something that has some personal implications for them. And when I say personal, not just a grade, but I mean they find significance or meaning in it, and they are motivated to complete that particular project, right? And you get that very often with coursework projects or some sort of research project or some sort of, you know, that kind of thing, most times. And they will even persevere through different challenges to get that work done, just based on their motivation and their, you know, and their connectedness, I should say, or connection to the work that they have to do, right? Then you have high attention but low commitment, where the basic motivation is just, okay, they want to pass the course, right? You would hear your students say that sometimes. They just want to pass the course. So sometimes you might find that they may not pay attention to the discussion forum or, you know, things where grades are not associated with it. They wouldn't pay attention to those things, right? In other words, they are just concerned about passing the course. And because of that, the learning is not long-term. It's not retained. They just, after the course, it's shortly thereafter, it's forgotten. Then you have low attention and low commitment, where the student is, how to say this? They will work only to avoid failing the course, right? And they are just at the bare level, basic requirements, similar to the previous one, where they just want to pass the course. All right, it's not a matter of, okay, I want to pass with distinction, or want, you know, that's or first class honors and that sort of thing. This one is just at the bare minimum. Okay, 50 is the or 40 or whatever the grade the mark is. So I'm just aiming to pass the course, right? Or do whatever is necessary just to get over this course, right? That's how some students see it. And then you have the others there that, and I want to pay attention to you have, okay, well, let me look at retreatism, where the student is not engaged and not compliant, right? But the student is not disruptive, right? So in a case like what you were talking about, Stefan, about the student is there but not really there, that would be retreatism. So in other words, the student is not engaged, all right? And this is where you want to maximize engagement so the student can't help but be engaged, all right? And I'll show you that in just a bit. And then you have the rebellion, where the student becomes disruptive and just, you know, is fighting against everything, all right? Any questions on this? Because I think this alone, if you remember anything that's from today's session, this table, you want to kind of use it to guide you as you go forward. Okay, great. Thank you so much for that, Sarah. And one of the best ways to get students engaged, and this is proven by research, is that you want to ensure that it's a hands-on experience. that they are actively involved in the teaching and learning process. And this is what we call a learner-centered approach, where students become involved. So this is a saying by Benjamin Franklin here. Tell me, and I'll forget. So you might forget a lot of what I'm saying right now. Show me, and I may remember. So some of you may already remember. You may already remember Answer Garden. You might already remember Poll Everywhere. All right. And I want to show you another tool that we can use in just a bit. All right. And involve me, and I learn. So with me, without me just showing you, for example, you might forget the slideshow or this recording, but I involved you. When I involved you in certain things, you remember those things long term, right? So for example, I mentioned the project. That's something they're going to remember long term, as opposed to just a simple quiz. All right. And this is additional research. We basically remember more of what we do, what we say, and what we write. Well, of course, all those come under actions, right? So active learning. All right. As opposed to just, you know, you listening to me. That's just, you're just going to remember 20% of that. You know what I mean? So you want to aim for a more hands-on, active learning approach, right? So you want active teaching and learning. All right. So I'm going to send you a quick thing here before we go any further. It's called Padlet. All right. In fact, you could do it. You just do a Google search, padlet.com. Can you do that? And I'll show you something very quickly. I want you to create your very own Padlet. And this is, sure. I was just going to post the link for you, but I'll just put it. Right, Padlet.com, and or you could just search Padlet. And once you get onto the site, I want you to click on create account, create an account. And I'll give you some time to do that. So let me know when you create the account. And you could create your account using your staff email, your private email, whichever one you would remember easily. So I'll give you a couple minutes for that. And you could just shoot me a message in the you could just shoot a message in the chat, or send a message in the chat once you are finished with that. All right, good. So I see we have some persons who are who are finished. Right, Julie is finished. Sarah is finished. Gopi-chan, you are finished. Sharice, you are done. Sheldon done. Pooja done. Good. Some others, and Marielle, you are getting through, right? Daniela, you are done.
Yeah, I see. I created, you have to sign up, and there was something with a basic, and I don't know if I did the right thing.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a free account.
Right. So there's a basic which is free, and there's another one, advanced, which you pay.
Yeah.
Right.
No, go for the basic.
Yeah.
You could do a basic, yeah. Okay, so Lorraine and Gerard, right, good. So most of you are done. So once you're done, you should see a page that looks something like this. Now, these are some walls that we have here that we already created, but you're going to create something very new. So is everyone seeing Make a Padlet on your page?
Yes.
Right. So click on Make a Padlet. And this page is basically asking you to identify what layout you would like for your Padlet. Now you could, create it in a grid, a wall, a stream. I tend to create a wall because I find it very interesting. Or it could be a timeline of some sort. But let's say it's, for now, let's click a wall. Now, Padlet is somewhat of a social media platform as well. So there are different ways you can share your Padlet, but more than that, and I'll show you that in just a bit, there are also things that, speak to like, make things personal. And when I say personal, very, I can't find the right word, but you would see, for example, they call mine My Glorious Padlet. That's just, they just give you an adjective just to make you feel warm and fuzzy inside, right? So, so you want to give your Padlet a title, right? You could give it a title instead of calling it My Glorious Padlet. That's just their thing, their, warm, fuzzy.
My fearless Padlet, so I like that. I live in that.
Fair enough, fair enough. All right. So anybody, you could go ahead and give it a title. Let's call it that. Or let me give something. All right, describing my lunars. All right, and then you can give the description. Now the description can, normally what I would put in the description would be the instructions. All right, so I might want to say, let's just call it this, my lunar-centered approach. And the description in my thing would be post a description of your right, I'll just give it that. Post a description of your teaching practices and student engagement. Right, so I did that. You could make it very, you don't have to give it an icon, that could stay as is. The wallpaper you could customize to something, how to say it, you could make it more personal. Let's say, it's, for example, in Sharice's field, you might have something that speaks to your field of engineering. All right, now be mindful, guys, that you don't want to choose a background that is too busy. Right, now you can make your own picture, which is what I was saying earlier with Sharice or anybody for that matter, something that is relevant to your field, but not too busy. All right, what I tend to go for would be more like textures and patterns. All right, and I choose very basic ones or simple ones. So let's say, for example, I might have corkboard. All right. I tend not to choose these that make it look a little bit on the dizzy side. I tend to stay away from, this one is okay, but this one I would probably stay away from. But that's just me. All right. So you have that. So let's try the. So I'm choosing this one, and you could choose pictures. You could choose, you could upload your things, your personal. If you find it's something, let's say geography, this might be of use to you. If you're doing something in geography of some sort, or tourism, or any world or global phenomenon, this one might be of use to you. If it's something that is more, traditional or a list of things or brainstorming, you might want to use this one. So I'm just showing you different different textures and tools that you could use. All right. So far, so good. So let me just choose one, a very simple one, very quickly. I would choose maybe this one. All right, just for now. And I go back. So it's, you notice the layout is very similar to Blackboard. So you just click back up here. So you choose your wallpaper. You could even choose your color scheme. All right, now that doesn't really do much. So, and you could choose the font size and that sort of thing. All right, so those are more aesthetic aspects. Yeah. So I see we have a question. Let me just check it out very quickly. Oh, Sheree said, okay, understood. And what we have here, so as we go further down, allow viewers to, sorry, first of all, new post position first. So in other words, every time a post is made, it appears at the top of the wall. Comments, allow viewers to comment on posts. Yes. So this allows other students to post or comment on other students' things. All right. You could allow students to like or to dislike, well, not to dislike, but to like things. If it's up to you. All right. If you want to give it a star, if you want to grade it like a numerical thing, that is okay as well. All right. But I tend not to use those things because sometimes I might just want it for basic like. So it's like a social media platform, like I said before. Then you could set certain restrictions, and this is just to ensure that you manage your class even in this platform. So you could set it that every post requires your approval before it becomes public, which I don't really use, but I do put the profanity filter, right? And the profanity filter just ensures that if expletives are being used, it will replace it with a more appropriate emoji. Yeah? Good. So once we do that, we click on next. Let me choose a little, something a little more funky. Let's see, something like this. Yeah. Yeah, let's use this for now. So right, so you go to next, and we can start posting. Now to post on your Padlet, you could post anywhere. You just double click anywhere on your wall, and it will appear at the top. So let's say you might want to give your name, Justin, and then the comment. And that's it. Now let me just, now you would see at the very top right side, you would see something called share. Share. So I want you to click on share. Let me know if I'm going too quickly. And I can easily copy this link and post it in the chat. And that way you and everyone else in the class can see it. All right, so I'm going to post it in the chat now. Right, Gerard, you're posting yours, good. Definitely, right? This is a cool tool. And I'm waiting for Gerard to approve mine. So Gopi-chan, you created yours as well. Nice, blue. And I'm just responding to those that posted their Padlets here. I like this, Julie. After today's session, what was unclear to you today about legal research? Now, you could take this very easily, guys, and embed it into your My Learning course. I forgot to mention that. So let me just show you very quickly. Let me go back to my Padlet. If I go to share, at the top right side, in addition to getting the link, I can also embed it into a website. Now, if I click on this, this is an embed code here. All right. This is a shorter version of the embed code here. So either one is good. And you can take this link and add it to your My Learning site. And maybe after this session, I'll show you what it looks like. So basically, students don't need a Padlet account or need to even go to Padlet if it's embedded in your site. All right. This is nice and easy. I just saw your comments here. Thanks. All right. And yes, I was saying that, you know, you could have the students who could stay within your My Learning course and access your Padlet if it's embedded into your site. All right. And I'll show you maybe at the end of the session, if you have time, how to do that. Is that okay? Sharice, you just right. So Sharice, you just created yours. My bold Padlet. So I'm going to post something. Now, if I wanted to create something, now feel free now, this is the next step, guys, and I'll go back to the PowerPoint in just a bit. You could add different media to your Padlet or your post on your Padlet. It could be from a host of Google Google applications. Just keep in mind that Google Padlet is under the umbrella of Google, right? Similar to YouTube, similar to, you know, a host of other things. I could insert a link. I could insert an image. So when you are typing, you would see like these little images, these little icons under here to upload a document even, to upload a link, to search the web or Google, to post a snap. Now, snap, of course, is from like a picture snap. Think of Snapchat. It doesn't have to be Snapchat, but if you have a camera, that works as well. So if I wanted to upload, let's say I wanted to put an emoji of some sort, I don't know, then I could do that right there. So let's say I wanted to put, right, and I could put that there. So go ahead now and post, okay, good. Oh, I think I was showing the wrong Padlet. I was on Sharice's Padlet, sorry. So, okay, good. I see someone else posted something. Nice, nice. Yes, Sheldon, it works great for student feedback. Like someone posted student teaching during a pandemic, good. And if I wanted to post, let me show you now how to post an image. It'll just pull it from here. Let's say I wanted to pick something of, you know, of some sort, then that's good there. If I wanted to post a link, it will just, so if it's a link like what someone did over here, that's a link. If it's a Google image, a picture of some sort, it can all go there. All right. Any questions on that, guys? Now, one of the good things about Padlet, before we move on, it allows you to share it, not just as embedded into your website and so on, all right, but it also allows you to save it as maybe an image, a PDF, which I particularly like, or some other sort of document, a different format. I particularly like the PDF, and I'll show you why. Because it saves as a PDF, and you could determine the size of it, for example. And this here is what the PDF, now granted we only had 2 posts on it, but look at what happens here. So I get to see a sort of report of what activities took place on the Padlet. So I have feel free to post now, and I see Sarah, Anonymous, Sheldon, etc., etc. And then look here, the person who posted this link, all right, student teaching during a pandemic. It's an active link. It's a hyperlink. So I could just click on it, and it takes me to that website. All right, and you could always download this and share it with your class, or you might even want to give students a project to do something like this, and to report on, if you give them a topic to find something, to research on a particular topic, and they could produce this Padlet for you.
Excuse me, where do you go to save?
Sure. You mean when you downloaded it as a PDF?
No, when you have created the Padlet, where you go to save?
Okay. So
because I'm not seeing that menu that you have.
Okay. So are you on a page? You're on a page like this with your Padlet?
Yeah.
Right. So everything is automatically saved. You don't have to click save or anything. Once it's like this, it's already stored to your account. So if I go to my account, my Padlet account, I would see describing my learner-centered approach, as we see here. Yeah?
Okay.
So you don't have to save anything. That's the next good thing about it. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. So everything is saved for you unless you delete it and that sort of thing. And to make sure you delete it, they might give you a code just to type in. It's right on the same screen. Just to make sure you know that you're going to delete your Padlet. Any other questions, guys? Right, Sheldon, I just saw your post-COVID trip, Argentina. Definitely. And I like the GIF you have there too. Nice, nice, very good. So I take it that you guys are enjoying Padlet, right? So let's go quickly into, let me just go back to the any questions on it again, guys? No? I guess it's silent means that you're either still exploring Padlet or you're...
Can it be shared with anybody?
Yes, yes. When you go to that, I was showing just now, when you go to that top right side with share, you can send the link, you can embed it into your My Learning course, or you can download it as a PDF. Well, this is where you have to guide the manage your class series. So if you are using it as a project, let's say you want students to create a project, an asynchronous project, they go on, or even something during the session, and then they come and produce this Padlet with this, finding all the information they needed to find, then it's guided. So you remember, you as a lecturer now, as a facilitator, you are the guide on the side. So you are guiding students along the way, right? So that they don't get carried away with the technology. You may even use it in your class for feedback on a particular topic. I think, I'm not sure who had it. Someone was saying about feedback on a particular topic, right? Or look at how I'm using it here. Describe my learner-centered approach, because I'm talking about learner-centered teaching. All right? So that's how you guide it. And of course, if it's becoming, distracting, then you could either stop the post, you could either, end the activity, that sort of thing. All right. So I think that's fairly good there with regard to Padlet. Now that you know all of this, so we looked at different, but from a technology side, we looked at Answer Garden, Poll Everywhere, Padlet, and then we looked at, one of the first steps is looking at your context. So we know it's a remote context. We know it's we have specific tools that we have at our fingertips, and then we looked at the kinds of learners that we have, and we know that the goal really is to maximize engagement. So now we want to bring it all together, and this is similar to what of relevance to what Sharice just posted in terms of ensuring that students don't get distracted. So this is where you become very strategic. All right, so you're not just giving them a tool, or you're not just using it arbitrarily, but you're grounding it in your instruction, right? And that provides the parameters or the framework for your bringing it all together. So a student-centered approach is really where, and this is what I was talking about, a paradigm shift from before, where previously you may have done a session where I'm sure we would have all been exposed to traditional teaching and learning, all right? What some people call the chalk and talk approach. But now the research has shown that a student-centered approach is much, much, much more not just engaging, but much more productive. Yeah, and why is the reason for that is that the students are more engaged, and there's more motivation, and motivation is a big part of teaching and learning, right? Even from a brain science aspect of it, once you're in a mood for learning, the brain produces what we call serotonin, and serotonin puts you in a good mood to learn. I think somebody said something along those lines, that you're in a mood to learn, either on a Padlet or in the Poll Everywhere. You're in a mood to learn, and that's because serotonin is being produced in your brain, and it puts you in a good mood to learn, right? Which also, I think, is the same chemical when you eat, which is why you need to have a good diet when you're going into teaching and learning and so on. But that's another story altogether. So basically, a learner-centered approach is where you take the learners into consideration, and you use them to guide to steer the teaching and learning process. All right, so it requires engagement. It requires that it's a hands-on or interactive approach. Yeah, any questions?
If you create if you add to a Padlet over time, would it keep all the information that you have put on it?
If you keep all the information in the Padlet,
if you keep adding every week or every so often you add new material to the Padlet, would all the material stay on the Padlet, or you have to share each time you create?
No, all the information will be stored on the Padlet. Think of it like a blank canvas that you have, and you have you add it every week or every 2 weeks, or however long you want to add, however long you keep it. So for example, I have Padlets that let me just share my screen very quickly. I have Padlets from since 6 years ago. And it has things that, of course, I use them for different contexts, and it keeps everything. So let's say if I wanted to go back to my account, let's say here, and I had this from 3 years ago, let's say this one. All right, this doesn't have anything on it, but I didn't post anything on it, so that's okay. In another Padlet, let me show you another one. I don't remember having stuff on this. Okay, yes. So we have stuff here. All right. On Padlet, 9 events of instruction. the Assure model. It was just an instructional design course at the time. All right, so it keeps everything years down the line. Does that answer your question?
It'll keep everything on that Padlet.
Yes.
If you create a,
Mm-hmm.
if you you could create many more.
Yeah. Even with this free account, you can create as many as, I think, 12 Padlets, 12 to 16 Padlets, roughly, on the free account. Of course, if you decide to go,
is there any limit to how many the content number of pieces you could add to the Padlet? Or to
no.
one?
There may be a limit, but it's not a limit that hinders.
It's not a small limit.
Yeah, it's not a small limit. I mean, I could show you some other Padlets. Let me pull up another set where I have things from not just many years ago, but let me just find it for you. One sec. And those Padlets, what I did, I had several different. Is it this? No, it's not this. No, it's not this. Just let me find it for you. So you'll see exactly how many Padlets you can create. Not just that, but also the number of posts. So this is a course I was teaching last semester. Let me just share the screen with you very quickly. So I'm showing a new page. And this particular Padlet, I'm not sure if you're seeing it, as you could see, and it was only just really a certain number of students, but of course they all posted different things, and it goes all the way down. And that was last year. And I thought, just as how I'm using it now, it was basically an activity, and I gave them to reflect on their on themselves, their practice, and so on. So that's just to give you an idea of, hopefully it does, it gives you an idea of what you can do in Padlet, its potential. Yeah?
Yeah, thanks.
Sure, no problem. So let's move very quickly into the next part of it, the teaching strategies. All right, and this is not going to take too long, and I'm demonstrating an approach we're going to use here that you might want to use in your particular classes or courses. And just before that, I'm just explaining student-centered teaching. So really, it's where, like I said before, the thing that drives the process is the students' needs and preferences. They kind of determine what strategies and activities and tools that you use. And these are some instructional strategies that you might want to consider. Game-based learning, that's where you use games, and I have a session where I show you how to create online games and so on, that synchronous and asynchronous, that students can use and you can use them to engage students. Kahoot is one example. I think someone mentioned Kahoot earlier. Taking a collaborative approach where you put students into groups, which is what we'll do in just a bit. A web quest approach, which is kind of where you give them the green light, as it were, to go and search things on the web. Yeah, of course, it must be something specific within a particular parameter. But keep in mind, especially where we identify that you're teaching millennials for the most part, a web quest is like, they'll be like kids in a candy store, so to speak. Problem-based learning, you give them some sort of problem that they have to either find the solution or a justified solution for the problem. Yeah, synchronous or asynchronous lectures like what we're having now, or I wouldn't call this a lecture but a webinar. And you could incorporate different tools such as Padlet, Poll Everywhere, Answer Garden, And even a basic discussion and a chat would help. All right, and we have different things as you see all down here. So what I'm gonna do very quickly, I'm gonna put you, I'm gonna put you into groups. All right, and these are the instructions here. So it's an activity I like to call 4560. All right, and it's where you're gonna be in groups of about 4. I think we should be able to create at least 4 groups, right? One group might have 5, I believe. 3 groups will have 4. All right. And I'm going to, each group will do one topic or one method. All right. It's as simple. You're just going to search online about your particular method and then sort of present to the class. Now you can do so via a Padlet, a PowerPoint, whatever you want to do. I'm going to make you the presenter when you come back, but you're just going to choose one approach, and then you're going to tell the rest of the class what you learned or found on that particular approach. Yeah? Is that okay? Let me know.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to make sure that you know what you have to do, right? So I'm gonna assign group leaders, or just so I know who's in each group. Let me see. Gerard, which one would you like? Active learning, cooperative learning, inductive teaching and learning, or experiential learning?
Okay, let's try cooperative learning.
Cooperative learning. Okay, good. So in your group, you have Beverly, Emelinda, and Margaret. All right. Charisse. Oh, I think someone had some. Okay, good. Charisse.
Yes.
You know what? I'm gonna put groups of 3. Let me just change it to groups of 3 so you have larger groups. But right. So let me just go back a little bit. So Stefan, your group, you will have Pooja, Jolie, Dave, and Daniela, right, along with yourself. And you are doing cooperative learning. Charisse, which one would you like? Active learning, inductive teaching and learning, or experiential learning?
Active learning.
Active learning. I thought you would have liked that one. Eh? So, so in your group, you have Beverly, Emelinda, Gerard, and Sarah. Did that change? I hope it didn't change because I see some people having technical difficulties. So it's changing just a bit. Gerard, I think you wanted to be in things. I'm putting you back in group 1. And just bear with me a little bit, guys. So Gerard, you wanted cooperative learning, correct? Yeah? And Stefan, I'm gonna put you in group 2. So Charisse, your group members will be Stefan, Beverly, Emelinda, Sarah. Group 3, you're gonna be, that'll be Gopi-chan, Lorraine, Margaret, and Mariel. All right, I think there's one more there, and Sheldon. All right, I wanted to put 4 groups, but I'm not sure how many of you would fit into 4 groups because I think some people have some technical difficulties. So I'm just gonna make, and I'll talk about experiential learning. Gopi-chan, you guys will do inductive teaching and learning? Yeah?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. So the way it goes is that you have, as a group, you're gonna just, you're gonna meet. I'm gonna put you into breakout rooms. So you're not gonna be in this main room. You'll be into 3 sub rooms or breakout rooms. And I'll give you about 5 to 8 minutes to really find whatever you can. It doesn't have to be too much on your assigned topic. All right, and then you're going to present it to the class. You could present it with a visual if you like. That works perfectly fine. All right. If not, you could talk us through. That's okay as well. But usually when I do this, it tends to be very competitive. So I'm just telling you, right? So we should come back, let's say by about 20, within 10 minutes. All right. And that's it. Everyone understood the instructions?
Yeah.
It's just 5 basic facts you need to find on each. All right. Okay, so let's go. So see you in about 10 minutes.
Want to main room.
All right. So welcome back to the main room. I think I'm not sure if I forgot to tell you that breakout rooms end very unceremoniously, and you just come back to the main room. All right. Okay. So which group wants to go first? I think we could go with active learning first. Yeah.
Oh my.
Let me make you a presenter, Charisse. I don't know if you
Guys,
have any.
is everybody there?
Yes, we're all here.
Okay, is everybody added then? And Charisse, you able to refresh the page okay?
No, I can't find it.
Do you have what? It's a link that you had?
No, it's not that. Oh.
Do you have a tab open with your Padlet, Charisse?
Are you seeing this now?
Yes, yes.
Right, but we only there's only 3 packs there.
I actually just added one. Do you want to refresh it one more time?
Let me see if it will. I'm not seeing it.
What is it you're not seeing, Charisse? What you looking for?
I updated the page, but
You
I'm not.
click the refresh icon?
Yes.
Oh
I'm not
wow,
seeing
okay.
anything added.
No, it's weird.
Check on your end, Sarah, if you're seeing it. Are you seeing it on your end?
I'm seeing 4 posts, yes. I'm afraid
So
to
why
click
isn't it?
refresh. Yeah, when I click refresh, they're all there as well.
Okay.
If I copy that.
Yeah, that's weird. Do you want to share your screen, Sarah? I just made you presenter.
Oh, you made me presenter? Oh.
Yeah, and I guess Charisse could talk to it while you present, while
sure,
you
right.
show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Presenter.
So to do that, you the little icon with the arrow in the middle. And you.
Oh,
okay.
nuts! I'm in Safari, Justin.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Is
that's
anybody
okay.
else in the group able to see more than the 3 posts?
No, I don't see.
Post the link. If you post the link, I could share it on my end and see.
Okay. Yes.
All right. Open a new window, and yes, I'm seeing all 4 with the dog in it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, Trace, do you want me to share it, or do you want to try it one more time? You could click on the link that Sarah just posted.
Okay. Where is it now?
It's in the chat.
Okay. I'm still getting this.
Are you still getting the 3? Okay, well, I will share it on my end. I'm not sure what's causing that, if it's a browser issue on your end, but let me share it, and I guess you could talk to the slide, to the window. All right?
Okay.
Okay, there it is. And if it's too small, guys, you would see a little magnifying glass on the left side of the screen. If you click on that magnifying glass and then a plus sign, it'll make it a little bigger for you. All right?
I changed it when we changed it to 5 facts about active learning, and we changed the Padlet, and I think she continued to change the original one. I don't know how that happened. I thought it changed the name and changed it entirely.
That's all right.
The wonders of technology.
I know, right? All right, so you go ahead, Trace. You can take it away.
Okay. So active learning increases retention, unlike more passive learning. So if you actively learn, it helps the student retain more. The active learning gets students doing, and so it is more effective for the learning process. Active
Exactly.
in-class learning provides students with informal opportunities for feedback. So you can provide feedback to them as they go along and as they understand the material. And active learning engages students in learning using all types of different activities such as reading, writing, discussion, or problem solving. And all of these promote analysis, synthesis, and evaluation of the class content.
Excellent. Excellent. Any questions, and guys, for this group or no? Just kidding. Thank you so much for that group. I think this was group 1. All right. Let's go very quickly into group 2. I think that would be the group on collaborative learning. Margaret, you were saying something?
No, I said
Okay.
nothing.
All right. So group 2 would be, I can't remember who's doing collaborative. Sheldon. Okay. See the step out now. Hey, see what's going on here. See the competition. All right. So let's go with inductive teaching and learning. All right. Right. No problem. Y'all could go now if you'd like. While group 2, I guess to save time. All right. Is that okay, Sheldon, or you'll? Stephanie, you want to go now, or anyone is fine with me? Oh yes, right. I chose you all first. Sorry, my bad. Sheldon, do you want to go now with your group?
Sure. I could go now.
All right. Do you want me to share your?
Yeah, sure. That'd be great.
You want to share?
You can share it.
Okay, no problem. Let me just do it on my end. Okay, you should see it anytime. Right, good. So the competition is stiff. Okay, go ahead, guys.
You all seeing it?
Yeah, we're seeing it. Everyone is seeing it, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes, seeing it good.
Okay, great. So inductive teaching is a method where the teacher doesn't give the answer. Basically, he allows the students to devise the answer by various situations, and so rather than giving the formula to students, he makes the students attempt various methods to solve the problem by firstly and then introduce the rule later. So it's a method where they try to figure out the problem before they give them the answer. In a nutshell.
Nice. Anything else?
Anybody else could add, I guess.
Well, just to add, I came across a lot of information concerning this inductive teaching and learning method, as you can see from the Padlet. So we have many points in terms of, for example, inductive teaching, and it involves knowing your students, knowing how your students perceive you. All right, very important, and understanding learning styles. Right. Also, using inductive learning to stimulate knowledge. Right. And as you were saying before, Justin, engagement is very important. Right. Learning involves teaching and not facilitating. And I know at the university, in some instances, we do have facilitating and not teaching. Right. So that is my little contribution as it relates to this.
Very good, very good, very good. And I'm just sending, giving group 2, that's the one with Charisse, a little round of applause, because I tend to do this in some of my classes, just to kind of, you know, to stir the pot a little bit. Very good, Gopi-chan, and your entire group. I think you guys did a really good job. Anybody, any other comments, guys?
No, really, I think, you know, the point came across, and really it's a lot about case-based and problem solving, no?
Yes, definitely, definitely. Okay, good. So you guys could give them feedback in the chat. You know, you could just give a little, you know, little shout out, a little kudos. Both group 1, group 2, and group 3. I said group 3. All right. So next group, let's go straight ahead. And the next group would be, I think, you guys would have done collaborative learning. Yes, definitely, Dave, definitely. And that was all in just 10 minutes, right? The last group. Who wants to go from the last group? Somebody has to go. So we had student-centered, then we had, we had active learning, then we had inductive teaching and learning, and now we have collaborative learning. Anybody from that group? Why has that group gone soft all of a sudden? Oh, okay, here we go. So, Julia, I'll just open your thing. Oh, nice. Okay. Something tells me y'all were working on this fairly recently, but that's okay. All right, so let me just pull it up. I just have a couple different tabs here, so just bear with me a little bit. Oh, you don't want to present? Okay. Well, you could select anybody from your group to present. Everybody's shy. Somebody has to present. Come on. Okay, let's choose a spokesperson from the group. I think that was right. Gerard, could you walk us through?
Yeah, basically, cooperative learning is a group process, and it involves breaking down the classroom and the students into small groups, and they go about some discovery learning where they each learn a portion of the topic, and they come back, they share what they've learned, they teach one another, and the idea is that they ensure that everybody has the common understanding. So there's a lot of responsibility involved in that you must do what you're assigned to do, and then you must share so that the learning comes from you, not only learning the material, but sharing it as well to reinforce the learning. Right,
very good, very good. Look, we have here, I don't know if you want to talk to these things, but I see you guys did quite a very thorough Padlet here with this. So recommendations and some other points along the way, right? So this is good, pretty good, guys, very good. Anything else? Any comments for this group? Everyone is very quiet. I thought you were talking so much just now. No comments. All right, fair enough. Yes, very pretty. Very, very, very pretty. Julie, you cater to the visual learners for sure, for sure. All right. So Very good, guys. Very good. So this is just a quick synopsis, and just allow me just about 5 minutes to as we just bring it to a close, please, if you don't mind. So these are the methods that we just looked at. Remember, a learner-centered approach is a paradigm shift, right? It's no longer where the teacher is steering the entire ship. It's really where the teacher becomes the guide and the side. So you guide the learning process, but students are the ones that are really doing the entire thing. So active learning, of course, as Sharice and her group made mention, it's a lot of problem solving, you know, class discussions, you debate on certain things, you brainstorm different things. So you're very much on point with that. Cooperative learning, where obviously you work in teams, as group one, I think mentioned. Cooperative learning, right? You work in teams, you work collaboratively. All right. It's basically group work, right? Inductive teaching and learning, where you pose different challenges, all right, or problems, and they have to now go and solve those problems, right? Sometimes it's called, you might see it somewhere, it might be called discovery learning, because that's really what it is. It's really where you present the situation and students have to go and find it or find ways of solving it. Then we have the experiential approach, where it's also, you know, very hands-on, where, and this takes you through a process. It's a iterative or cyclical process that goes from experience to reflection. The students go through, you know, they experience something, they reflect on that experience, and then that reflection brings a new conceptualization of something, and then with that new conceptualization, you begin to experiment it. Now you would know, you might find this as, and of course that experimentation goes all the way back to experience, right? You might find this a lot in research, even if it's some sort of scientific research. You know, if you think of reflection / discussion in a lab report, that might be something of that sort, right? So experience, reflection, conceptualization, and then experimentation. So let's just stop and reflect very quickly. What are some of the things that stood out to you in that activity we just did? Anything? What stood out to you?
Reluctance to present.
Reluctance to present, right? Definitely. The challenge of group work. Right. Okay, good. Margaret, you were saying something. You raise your hand. Go ahead.
That you could share a lot of knowledge in a short space of time.
Boom. Yes. That is so true, that you could share a lot of knowledge in a short space of time. Very good. I like that. Anything else?
Requires participation from all persons, all members.
Right. Nice. You see where I'm going with this? Nice. So it basically forces you to participate, even if it is within the parameters of your specific group. You have to contribute, right? And then, of course, the guide on the side, which is the facilitator or the teacher, you are, you know, encouraging people to give feedback, to contribute, right? Very good, Marielle.
And it requires careful planning by the teacher.
Yeah, I was just saying it.
Yes.
Yeah, it just forces.
Definitely.
Forces participation, or it facilitates, let's say, participation.
Yes, you're definitely right.
Active participation.
You're definitely right. Sarah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking that some of the technology that we learned actually makes it really easy for people to, like, you know, whether they're sharing things or posting something, you know, as opposed to 100 years ago when you had to get your Bristol board and scissors and glue and things, right? But at the same time, I think what happens is if some of the participants are having technical difficulties or maybe not as familiar with it, like that takes a lot of time. And so I was just thinking about, again, the pros and cons of this online environment where not everybody may necessarily be as equipped, or maybe the internet goes down or whatever.
Right. Which is why something like a collaborative approach is definitely a go-to when it comes to remote teaching and learning, because where one person might fall short with circumstances beyond their control, let's say it's a connectivity issue, the work can still be covered, or the task can still be completed. Yeah. So for example, if that were an individual exercise and Charisse didn't have something, then how would we have moved forward? You know what I mean? So, but because it was a group effort, Sarah, you had something that was able to help and so on. So that definitely works. Dave said something about careful planning, and that is true, because remember, like I said, you want to be very strategic, right? And there was a reason I wanted you to do this particular activity. And remember I said earlier that a lot of what I will be doing in this session is sort of demonstrating or modeling what you can do in your online sessions. So really what we did there, yes, you were presenting on collaborative collaborative approach, but we also used a collaborative approach, yeah, with the breakout rooms. Yes, we mentioned web quests and inquiry-based approaches, but you also did that. You kind of, you know, we mentioned that, and you had to go online and you looked up certain things and that sort of thing. It was also interactive, but that's part and parcel of a collaborative approach. We used the BBC breakout room. That's, well, of course, we know that feature from especially those of you who attended last week's session. Some of the things I did, I made certain persons presenters so they can share their screen. All right. So you basically did what we were trying to explain all along. All right. And that's why I wanted you to do that activity, so you get that experience of how it is implemented. Yeah. And even with its hiccups with regard to technical issues and connectivity or whatever the case might be, flaws and all, you were able to see how it's implemented. And just within the space of, let's say, about 10 to 15 minutes, roughly, I think you did pretty good. And then keep in mind too that even in your class, you might be more familiar with the students and vice versa. So of course you wouldn't necessarily have to prod students to present, right? But yeah, so learning and engagement were maximized. Yeah. Very quickly, I know some of you would be familiar with some of these features. Within a Zoom or BBC session, I'm just going to show you just the list, not to go into detail, because I know some of you attended last week's session on Blackboard. But these are some other ways in which you can engage your students. Some of it might even be to annotate, to write on the slide. So for example, Charisse, you might have an illustration, a diagram, or a process of some sort, and you might require students to put in the labels or illustration, not illustrations, put in the labels on that particular diagram. If I were to ask you, for example, to type your name next to the engagement activity we see on the list here, can you do that? So just very quickly, so the last thing we're going to do, so you're going to click on the T at the top left side, and you're just going to put your name next to or anywhere around that. Right, so Gerard, you use breakout rooms. Anybody else? Sarah, you use case studies. Good. Charisse, you use polls. Nice. Julie, you use URLs or videos. Sheldon, you did the same thing. Dave, you did polls as well. And so we see how and you could even draw as well. Huh? Gopi-chan, you did student presentations. So Gopi-chan did this, right? Student presentations. Excuse my arrow, but you get the gist of it, right? Or classes. Somebody drew a circle something that was supposed to be a circle. All right. And these are ways in which you can get students to label. Margaret did student presentations. These are ways in which you can get students to be engaged because they like doing things like these, whether it's labeling a diagram, right? Instead of you presenting the diagram with all the labels, you get them to label it, right? Lorraine, you use Kahoot, nice, right? So this is a way of also engaging students in the thing. So what I tend to do in a case like this, I would put a diagram or an illustration on my slide, and then have them insert the labels. If it's the water cycle, for example, the hydrological cycle, right? Okay, label where evaporation might be, where condensation is, where surface runoff, you know, all these different things, right? Sorry, I just happened, I was very big on geography back in the days, so that's all, one of my go-to things. So yeah, so you see how simple it is, right? So there's an array of tools and strategies that you can use to engage your students. And as we close, you know, sorry, wrong slide. As we close, I want to give you 5 simple tips to engagement and teaching in the online environment. All right. And maybe in a follow-up session, we can do something along the lines of I made reference to game-based learning. So I might do a repeat of it, and you can look out for that as well. All right. But anyway, so we have some tips for online teaching in the online environment. And like I said, you want to make it relevant. You want to ensure that it's, sorry, someone moved my slide. You want to make sure it's relevant. You want to make sure it's participatory. So you know, participatory learner or learner-centered teaching, same thing. You want to make it interactive or collaborative, anyone. You want to make it fun. You want to make it fun, because when it's fun, it's something that becomes more memorable. That is the premise for motivation for the student and also for long-term learning. So they're not going to forget something that they had fun in, right? And because it's fun, it becomes more memorable or more meaningful. So you see how they're all connected? It's relevant. In other words, it's contemporary. The student can identify with it. The student, you know, it comes alive to the student. One of the things when I was studying geography, you know, I struggled at one point in time because it wasn't really real to me, you know, until we had a field trip, and I went. It was a field trip, you know, all the way to the Columbus Channel, and I was able to do some quick research, and that was part of the instruction we got on settlement, the different types of settlements and so on along the way. And then of course, when we got to the Columbus Channel, the South Coast, we looked at the coastal environment, which is another thing we were studying at that time. So you looked at you know, we got to see live and direct what certain coastal features were, what, you know, it became real to me outside of the textbook. So it became more relevant because I was able to relate to it. I know no more field trips, but even if it's something as a documentary that students can look at, yeah, as opposed to just sending them to read a chapter. It could be a short little video, a little 2-minute video of a phenomenon or process of some sort. That makes it real as well, yeah? There's a documentary back in the day, The Miracle of Life, I think, when I was studying biology. So, you know, you make it real. Those are things that, and I'm more of a visual kinesthetic kind of learner, but for me, those things, the reason they stood out to me is because they became real to me. They you know, became relevant, all right? And it was out of the norm. So always try to keep remember these 5 tips and apply them in your teaching context. Any questions, guys?
Yes,
go ahead.
How do we contact you?
Oh, I'm going to give that information in the following slides, but via email. Yes, Margaret?
Did you post the slides from last session?
I think I sent it to Professor Hackshaw, the materials, all the material, and did you guys get it yet? No?
I can't remember seeing it.
No.
Sorry, which session are you referring to? Blackboard?
Yes, Blackboard.
Oh, sorry, Blackboard. Yes, that was that should have gone already. I'll double check and see if the person sent it. All right.
Dr. Z, would it be sent to your individual email or posted on a CTL site or something?
Good question. It would be sent to the email that whatever email you use to register for the workshop.
Okay.
It would be sent to that email address.
Yeah.
So if you didn't register with your staff email, then and you registered with a personal account, then it would probably go to that personal account. So you could check there and let me know.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't come.
Didn't get it? Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll follow up.
And that's the only thing, right? You do such excellent training, excellent work. But
thank you so much.
No, you do, and you're engaging, and I could always see you doing the things, only I'm not seeing you. But for me, I like the follow up and to see the thing to get it synced. And when it's made like this, it takes away from the experience. That's just my comment. But
yeah, definitely. What I'll do,
you do so excellent. I can need to support you with respect to showing up.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I really do. What I can do is follow up on it. Now, normally it takes some time for the recording to be produced. Now, I think the workshop we had last week, because it was in the afternoon, or it ended in the afternoon, evening, I would have seen it the following day or the following morning. So I'll follow up on it, and if it bounced or if it, I'll just have the person send it to everyone again. And you could send me an email if you don't see that email with the materials. All right? But thank you so much for the support. Any other questions, guys? All right, I don't want to keep you much longer. So you're going to see, you should see a workshop evaluation form between today and tomorrow morning. And if you could complete that form. It's just a very short form. And thank you so much, Beverly. And thank you so much, Sarah. Definitely. And you could give me some feedback in that form, and even how I could improve. I'll definitely appreciate that. All right. Thank you so much, Gopichan and Pooja and Gerard. Thank you so much. And here's the contact information. If it's something that is technical, you might probably want to send it to servicedesk@sta.uwi.edu. And when I say thank you so much, Sheldon. When I say technical, if it's something in the back end with Blackboard or my e-learning, you can send it to service desk. I'll still be copied where necessary. And if you want to send something directly to me, here's my address as well. All right. Always remember, guys, and thank you for the feedback. Thank you, Cherise. Thank you, Lorraine. So it's justin.zephyrin@sta.uwi.edu. And always remember, guys, some keywords. Keep it collaborative. Keep it relevant or appropriate. Be creative with it. Think outside the box. Keep it practical. In other words, hands-on, and that sort of thing. All right. So have a great afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for attending the session. Thank you so much, Dave. I just saw your comment.
Sheldon,
you are most welcome, Beverly. Bye, Cherise. Yes, Maria?
If you have a minute after, please.
Sure, yes, I remember, yes. Not a problem at all, Sarah and Stefan and Gopichan. Have a great afternoon, everyone.